Thank you.
Well, good morning. I'm Mary Hines. I'm the Vice Chair of the Arlington County Board, former school board member.
And I'm Abby Raphael, Vice Chair of the School Board. And we are both very pleased to welcome you all today and to tell you a little bit about Second Chance. Substance abuse by Arlington youth is a real issue. It is a real challenge for our community. And this community recognized the need to come together to address that problem.
From everything that you've heard, this is absolutely a true partnership, and I think collectively we believe that the only way we can tackle a problem like risky behavior among young people is when we all work together to find a good solution. So as you heard a little bit from Kip, we do have evidence based on the surveys that we do that significant numbers of our kids are involved in using drugs and alcohol.
In a recent survey, we found that 27% of Arlington 8th graders reported that they'd used alcohol. 28% of our 12th grade students tell us that they engaged in binge drinking in just the last month. And nearly half of our 12th graders report that they have tried some kind of illegal drug. And particularly troubling, I think, is the fact that only 56% of our 12th grade students think that regular marijuana use is harmful.
So we have a lot of work to do, and we know that. It's not just what the kids tell us, it's what the scientists tell us, though, that makes us doubly concerned. We know a lot more than we did when we were teenagers about the impacts and the effects of alcohol and drugs on the development of the teenage brain. It affects the young people's behaviors and their attitudes in ways that I think as a community we have to find troubling. There are important effects on how well your memory works and on the development of your brain and your capacity to make good decisions. We know from research that the younger that a young person begins to use alcohol, the more likely it is that they'll become addicted in their life or struggle with addiction issues over their life. All of these are reasons why we need to find a way to intervene in this behavior.
And as Kip mentioned earlier, there are so many risky behaviors associated with alcohol and drug use by our young people. And that includes sexual behaviors, driving under the influence, violence. And at this time of year, we hear particularly the tragic stories about students who are involved in accidents, sometimes fatalities when alcohol is involved, and deaths from binge drinking. So we know from all of this, from the science, from the experience, from all of the risks associated with drug and alcohol use, that there's a really clear message for adults. And that is that drug and alcohol use is not a rite of passage for young people. It is harmful, and we can work together to prevent it.
These behaviors and the attitudes that go with them simply are not consistent with a healthy lifestyle or with getting to a fully productive adult life, which is what we hope and pray for each of our kids. So we decided, as Kip detailed, that we would all get together and sort of figure out what to do. One of the major things we heard as we talked with the adults in the community, those of us who've had teenagers and people who have teenagers now, was that a lot of adults didn't know what to do when they suspected that their young person was engaged, or they even had evidence that they were, and that some of the consequences as they understood them were so dire, I guess it's the word that I would choose, or so life-altering that they were afraid to engage folks who might be able to help them.
Exactly. Part of what the committee heard was a concern that some of this was being underreported, that if the only consequence was through the judicial system or suspension, that adults were afraid to intervene. So Second Chance is about that early intervention, and it's about education for the students and for their families.
It's really important to also say that it's the first intervention. It's not for young people who are caught repeatedly. It's that first time you suspect. Let's get those young people in, let's educate them early. And we want to provide a consistent approach across all of our Arlington institutions, that we're not going to turn a blind eye to the problem, and that we're going to work together to get teens back on track to leading that healthy, productive life that we hope for all of them.
So we'd like to tell you a little bit about the program itself. So starting in September, middle and high school students can be referred for Second Chance, and they can be referred by their schools, by parents, by the police, and by the courts.
To be eligible for the diversion part of the program, that is to avoid criminal prosecution or a school suspension, it must be a student's first offense and involve alcohol or marijuana.
Now, for a second offense or for a drug other than marijuana, students won't have the benefit of avoiding the criminal prosecution or the discipline within the school system, but if appropriate, they still may be able to benefit from the education part of the program.
So Second Chance is free. It's a 3-day program that's going to be offered at a fire station, another one of our great partners.
And there'll be a booster session within 60 days, so the students and the parents will come back so we can see how they're doing and what they've learned.
Students can be referred from this program for substance abuse treatment. And it's another really critical, important component is that the parents or the guardians have to participate in the program. It's not an option to skip that.
And in addition, school counselors will follow up with our Arlington Public Schools students throughout the course of the school year.
Most importantly, I think, to all of us is that we are going to engage in a robust evaluation of the program to make sure that we understand how it works and where it can be tweaked, but also to set us up, if we're successful, for this being recognized as a scientifically based model program, which would then make it transferable to other places in the country and potentially eligible for other kinds of funding. So, as we said all the way through this, Second Chance is a reality only because the community, all the bits and pieces of the community, the government, the school system, the nonprofit community have come together to design the program and also to fund it.
And one of our funders is the Century Council, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to preventing underage drinking. And their funding have provided $50,000, and I'd like to thank the Century Council and its CEO, Ralph Blackman, who's here today. Thank you very much.
I'm very pleased to say that the county board was able to find $130,000 to fund 2 years of this program, as giving us a good base to continue to build the work on.
And in addition, the READY Coalition, which is part of the Partnership for Children, Youth, and Families, is providing funding for the evaluation piece, which Mary mentioned is such an important part of this, so we can really monitor and see how effective this program is. Now, we've had lots of thanks, but I want to thank again Debbie Taylor, who has just led this group for years and has done such a wonderful job to make Second Chance a reality now.
And Kip went through all the other important people who are in this room who helped bring this to reality. Senior leadership from both of our organizations, as well as the courts. Pat Romano, thank you for all of the work that you've done to bring our information there. We also have the head of our school resource officer, Kim Babcock, who's in the back. And again, important police perspective that got brought into the work. So, as we said, this has been a great collaboration. It's been a pleasure for us to work together to figure out how we can bring the best of both of our organizations to bear on solving what is truly a community problem, right?
Absolutely. It really has been a privilege to work together and to work with this committee to help make a difference for our young people and their families.
Right. So we're going to turn it back to Kip, and we'll be around if anyone has questions after.
Thank you.